What's going on, everyone? My name is Blaine, and today I'm going to walk you through a few practical steps in order to get the best cinematic footage out of the new iPhone 15 Pro. It's honestly wild how much you can do with a phone today. I've used a lot of cameras throughout my career, and the fact that we carry around something like this in our pocket is really exciting. While these cameras have not fully replaced high-end cinema cameras, they definitely bring a lot to the table in terms of creating high-quality cinematic video. We're going to go over 4 main points in this video. It's definitely important to keep in mind that there's so much more to learn in each of these categories that we're going to go over, but my goal is for you to have a solid base to work with and hopefully feel a little bit more comfortable using the iPhone 15 Pro after watching this. In this video, I'm going to break down one of my most recent cinematic videos that I filmed in Yosemite National Park with the iPhone 15 Pro. We're going to go through specific settings that I set within the phone, tools that you can use to maximize quality, tackle some ways that you can get cinematic movement in your footage, and a few editing tricks to keep in mind, as well as some accessories that can help elevate your footage. So with all that being said, let's get to it. Okay, so the first thing that we want to establish are the settings on the phone. Before the iPhone 15 Pro, I did all of my recording in the native camera app on the phone, which was fair because at the time, Apple only had one main recording format. The iPhone 15 Pro introduces Apple ProRes Log, giving us access to a format of footage that's jam-packed with a ton of data in our colors, shadows, and brightness, which takes editing this footage to another level. I moved away from recording in the native camera app and perform all of my recording in the Blackmagic Cam app. I'm going to explain why in just a little bit, but it's helpful to note that iPhone Photography School already has a video about this app that goes through a lot of helpful tricks that will help maximize the app's performance. The app is free to download, so once you download the app from the App Store, you can go in and adjust the settings accordingly. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure that we're set to Apple ProRes Log. As I mentioned before, log footage allows us to gather way more color and the brightness information than standard recording. It's important to note that when you record in this format, the footage will initially look gray or sort of have this faded look. That's completely normal. It's common for log footage that's captured on all types of cameras. This is something that we're gonna fix in the editing process. When we tap on the settings icon on the bottom right-hand corner, we can set the proper recording settings. For color space, we want to set it to Apple Log HDR. Resolution should be set to 4K, and codec should be set to Apple ProRes 422 HQ. After we adjust these settings, we can go back to the camera icon by tapping it on the left side, and we'll start to see some of the settings that look familiar to what we would see on a normal camera. When it comes to frame rate, I typically like to set my frame rate based on whether or not I plan on slowing down my footage. If I plan on doing that, I typically roll with 60 frames per second. Otherwise, 24 frames per second is a more common frame rate. It is important to note that if you record in 4K 60 frames per second through the native camera app on your phone, you do have to plug in an external SSD to your phone in order to store the footage. This is a requirement built into iOS because once you record in 4K Apple Log at 60 frames per second, the size of the files become a lot bigger and can fill up the storage on your phone pretty quick. My go-to SSD is the Samsung T7. This is a 2 terabyte. I think you can probably snag one for like 150 bucks or so on Amazon. Pretty small, as you can see, and it's pretty easy to stow away if you want to keep it in your pocket or something. I find it very reliable. It's got a fast throughput, and it definitely is pretty reliable in terms of storing your footage and making sure that you're putting it somewhere safe. With that being said, the perk of using the Blackmagic Cam app is that it essentially bypasses this requirement and allows you to record natively onto your phone regardless of frame rate. And if you ask me, that's a little bit better than walking around with an SSD plugged into your phone. It's also important to keep in mind that since all of your footage is stored within the app itself, I highly advise dumping all your footage onto your computer when you're finished filming in order to have storage on your phone, because this will take up a lot of space really quick. That lays a helpful foundation for the Blackmagic Cam app. Again, there's so much more to go into this, but iPhone Photography School already has a very helpful video on the Blackmagic Cam app that you can check out. If you're recording natively on the iPhone camera app, it's really simple to toggle the ProRes Log feature. If we open the camera app, we can go to the top left-hand corner of the screen and toggle ProRes Log. On the top right-hand corner, we can adjust our frame rate accordingly. If you try to set the camera to 4K 60 frames per second, you'll notice that I get this pop-up basically saying you can't record in this format without an SSD. So like I said before, this is a big reason why I use the Blackmagic Cam app. During my last trip to Yosemite, my goal was to create a short cinematic piece that captured both small moments on the trail as well as larger perspective shots that truly show the scale of Yosemite National Park. There's different perspectives that I look for in order to ensure the footage reflects a cinematic look. Camera movement can make a huge difference in making the viewer feel immersed in the moment. So with that being said, let's see how this all plays out by taking a look at a few of the clips that I gathered during the shoot. In this clip, my goal was to utilize the foreground. By panning the camera to the right, it carries the eye toward the subject and really adds scale to the size of the valley. With clips like this, it's important to make sure that you're obeying the rule of thirds to avoid there being too much sky or too much ground in the frame. El Capitan is the first thing that mesmerizes you when you come into the valley. As my buddy was driving the car, I opened the sunroof in order to film El Capitan as we passed in front of it. Getting movement like this is always tricky because you want to make sure that you're getting something that's somewhat stabilized and doesn't actually look like you're in a car. Being able to see the speed in which the trees were passing in front of El Capitan really added perspective to just how big the mountain really is. One of the amazing things about the camera on the iPhone are the various focal lengths that we can take advantage of. Whether it's 1x, 2x, 3x, or wide angle, it's important to keep a variety of zoom lengths in mind based on what we're trying to capture. For this video, the wide angle lens was very helpful for capturing scale at the top of the valley and showing just how much there really is. And the 3x zoom helps compress objects in the valley as well as on top of the valley by being able to show that scale. So with that being said, we're gonna dive into a few editing tricks. So remember in the beginning when we talked about the way log footage looks, it gives off this gray desaturated look straight out of the camera. As I mentioned before, this format gives us a lot of data to work with. When we edit the footage, we're gonna have way more control over the shadows and the color, allowing us to edit footage to its full potential. So there's a variety of editing software that will help us transform the log footage from the iPhone 15 Pro into a video format that looks familiar in terms of color. To do this, we use what's called a correction LUT. At first, this term can sound pretty confusing, but LUT stands for lookup table. And all this will do is help us get the footage back to its normal state and help the shot look the same as it did when we were filming it. It is important to note that it's possible to get the footage back to normal without a correction LUT. If you happen to be in a hurry, it is possible to edit the colors, shadows, etc. in the native Photos app, where you can play around with the settings to get the color back to the way you want it. Because this format of footage has so much data in it, we're gonna have a lot more control than recording in a standard MP4 format. I personally prefer to do all of my editing in DaVinci Resolve. It's a software that was actually created by Blackmagic, the company that makes the Blackmagic Cam app. However, Adobe Premiere Pro has correction LUTs that can be downloaded for the iPhone 15 Pro as well. The editing flow in these programs definitely look a lot different than editing in the native camera app, but there are plenty of YouTube videos that break down each one respectively. If we decide to edit the footage in the native camera app, we can tap on the edit icon on the top right-hand corner after we select the clip that we would like to edit. From here, we can see our adjustment icons such as exposure, contrast, shadows, saturation, etc. Once I select saturation, I can crank it up a bit and immediately see the color within the video start to reveal itself. We can play around with each of these settings until we achieve the look that we're comfortable with. After saturation, I'm going to head on over to contrast and try to bring out the darker shadows. And after that, I can adjust the exposure, which will help even things out a bit. So just by adjusting 3 of our adjustment features, we're already starting to see a huge difference from the faded gray look we had straight out of the camera. DaVinci does have built-in LUT corrections, which will take the footage from its desaturated gray look and transform it into the rich colors that lie underneath. After the correction LUTs are added, you can adjust the shadows, highlights, exposure, and the color wheels accordingly to give it that cinematic look that you're looking for. My goal with this video was to demonstrate the recording power of the iPhone 15 Pro without using external accessories that were purchased for the lens. Polarizers and VNDs can play a huge role in removing glare, as well as making it easier to control the shutter speed on the phone. Polarizers help remove strong glare and even out the light in different parts of the image. A VND, which stands for Variable Neutral Density Filter, is going to allow us to control the amount of light getting into the camera. This gives us better shutter speed, and it reduces the amount of light that's being brought in, allowing the shot to be properly exposed. Polar Pro makes some phenomenal accessories for the iPhone, and these filters will definitely help bring out better quality in each shot if you're looking to go that extra mile. Okay, so if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. You don't have to be somewhere epic like a national park or anywhere specific in order to create a cinematic piece. Some of the most incredible things that I've seen people create with an iPhone are filmed right in their backyard. So like I said, we could definitely spend a lot more time on each of these categories, but by keeping these tips in mind, I think you'll have a pretty solid platform to get started gathering cinematic footage on the iPhone 15 Pro.